What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors goes head-to-head with a talk show host who thinks he can push anyone around? What you're about to hear may well shake you to your core. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Because this story will make you question everything you thought you knew about late-night television. The studio lights were blazing that Tuesday evening as Michael B. Jordan took his seat opposite Jimmy Kimmel. The audience buzzed with anticipation, expecting the usual light-hearted promotion for Michael's latest blockbuster. But what they witnessed instead was a masterclass in how quickly things can spiral out of control when egos collide. So, Michael, Jimmy began, wearing that trademark smirk his fans have come to expect only tonight. Something felt off. More calculated? I've got to ask about something that's been doing the rounds online. There are some pretty wild rumors about your personal life. Michael shifted slightly in his seat, his professional smile unwavering, but his eyes had sharpened. Jimmy, I'm here to talk about the film. That's what we agreed on. Oh, come on, Jimmy chuckled, though there was no warmth in it. The audience wants to know. Don't you think they deserve the truth? I mean, you're sat in my chair. On my show, the least you can do is be honest with the people who buy tickets to your films. The tension in the room was unmistakable. Even the normally boisterous crowd seemed to sense that something was off. Michael's jaw tightened just slightly. With respect, Jimmy, there's a line between being honest and indulging in gossip. I've always been open about my work. My craft, what actually matters. Jimmy leaned in now, his voice dropping into a tone laced with condescension. And that's where you're wrong. Everything's fair game when you're in that chair. Your relationships, your politics, your family. That's how this works, Michael. You don't get to control the narrative just because it makes you uncomfortable. Michael's reputation for composure in Hollywood was well-earned, honed over years of dealing with demanding directors, brutal schedules, and relentless media scrutiny. But something about Jimmy's smugness, that's how this works, cut deeper than usual. Actually, Jimmy, Michael replied, that's not how this works. That's just how you think it works. Big difference. Jimmy raised his eyebrows, the sarcasm practically dripping now. Oh, really? Do enlighten me. You're the guest, remember? I've been doing this for decades. I think I know how my own show operates. The studio fell completely silent. This wasn't the playful banter people had come for. This was something else, something raw. Michael took a measured breath, the kind that only years of media training could perfect. But his eyes were steel. I've been on dozens of shows, Jimmy. I've sat across from Oprah, from Howard Stern. Every single one of them understood the line between entertainment and exploitation. And they treated me like a human being first, a celebrity second. Jimmy let out a hollow laugh. Exploitation. That's rich, coming from someone who's been milking the same tough guy role in every film for the past 5 years. You want to talk about exploitation? Let's talk about how you've been phoning in the same performance while cashing million-dollar checks. The jab was so sharp, so gratuitously cruel, that a few members of the audience audibly gasped. Michael's publicist, seated in the front row, looked seconds away from a cardiac arrest. But Michael didn't move. He didn't even blink. He just went still. Frustration melted into something far more dangerous. "Excuse me?" he said, voice now low and precise, controlled in that way people close to him knew as a warning sign. "Did you just question my integrity as an actor?" Jimmy shrugged. "I'm questioning a lot of things. Michael, your acting, your authenticity, your whole carefully managed image. Let's not pretend. You're not some noble artist. You're just another Hollywood pretty boy who got lucky with a couple of decent roles." The words hung in the air like smoke from a gunshot. Michael's hands, which had been relaxed on the armrests, began to curl into fists. The camera operators, sensing the temperature shift, zoomed in tight, capturing every flicker of expression. Michael spoke again, calm, cold, unshaken. Asterisk carrying an edge that sliced through the studio like a blade. Michael leaned in. "I need you to be very careful about what you say next," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "Because right now, you're not just disrespecting me. You're disrespecting every actor who's spent their life perfecting their craft. You're dismissing every person who's ever clawed their way up from nothing to make something of themselves." "Oh, spare me the sanctimonious speech," Jimmy scoffed, waving a hand dismissively. "You think a few awards and a good-looking face make you untouchable? This is late-night television, Michael. If you can't take the heat, maybe stick to your superhero flicks where everything's scripted and safe." That was the moment something shifted. The media training, the calm polish, the carefully guarded image cracked, like thin ice under too much weight. Michael leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper laced with steel. "Let me make something clear. Jimmy, I didn't luck into anything. Every role I've earned, every accolade I've received, every pound in my bank account, bled for it. I sweated for it. I worked through rejection, exhaustion, and expectations that would break most people. And I've worked with directors who've forgotten more about filmmaking than you'll ever know about comedy. Is that supposed to intimidate me?" Jimmy snapped back. But for the first time, his confidence faltered, his bravado flickering. "You think your tough guy act works on everyone? This is my house, Michael. My show. My rules." Michael let out a low laugh, cold, humorless. "Your house." He shook his head slowly. "Jimmy, you're not even the funniest person in your own building. You're a middle-aged man who's greatest legacy is mocking people more talented, more successful, and frankly, more relevant than you'll ever be." The audience was frozen. Some covered their mouths in stunned silence. This wasn't a chat show anymore, it was a televised reckoning, and no one was sure who would be left standing. Michael wasn't finished. "You want to talk about my personal life?" His voice was gaining momentum, now measured but unstoppable. "Fine. Let's talk about yours. Let's talk about how you've built your entire career on being the safe option. The vanilla choice networks make when they want someone who won't ask hard questions, won't rock the boat, and won't challenge anyone's worldview." Jimmy's face flushed a deep red, his trademark smirk now replaced by a tight, brittle line. "You don't know what you're talking about," he muttered. "Don't I?" Michael's voice cut like glass. "I know exactly what I'm talking about. You're threatened by people like me because we represent everything you've never had the courage to be. We take risks. We push boundaries. We create work that means something. You read jokes written by people cleverer than you and interview people more interesting than you." The camera zoomed in on Jimmy's hand as it trembled, reaching for his mugging thing to ground him, to regain a grip on his show. But Michael wasn't letting up. "You know what?" Jimmy's voice cracked slightly as he slammed the mug down, louder than intended. "I think you've been reading too many of your own press clippings, sitting there, acting like you're some visionary artist, when really, you're just another actor with good genes and a decent agent." Michael tilted his head, studying him like a surgeon examining a tumor. "Jimmy, you having some kind of breakdown? Because honestly, this is painful to watch. Your audience deserves better than whatever this is. My audience loves me." Jimmy barked, a note of desperation creeping in. But his eyes darted toward the audience, who sat silent, unmoving, as if unsure how to respond. "They've been laughing at my jokes for years." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Have they, though?" he asked. "Because I'm looking at them right now, and they don't look like they're laughing. They look embarrassed for you." Behind the cameras, Jimmy's producer was frantically gesturing, trying to signal a cut to commercial. But Jimmy either didn't see or refused to. He was too far gone. Michael could smell it, now the blood in the water. And like any good predator, he moved in. "You want to know what's really happening here?" he said quietly. "You're angry. You're angry that someone like me exists, while you sit here night after night making harmless little jabs about celebrities and politicians. There are people out there, people like me, real stories, creating real change." "Real change?" Jimmy laughed bitterly. All pretense of humor gone. "You make films, Michael. You play dress-up for a living. Don't stand there acting like you're curing cancer. And you tell jokes for a living," Michael shot back, not missing a beat. "Only difference is, I respect my craft." Michael didn't pause, didn't flinch. His words came like a blade drawn smoothly from its sheath. "At least my work inspires people," he said, voice firm. "At least when someone watches one of my films, they might see a part of themselves they didn't know existed. When they watch your show, they get an hour of filler. Forgettable content that helps them drift off to sleep." A murmur rippled through the audience. Some began to nod in agreement. Jimmy noticed, and it made him unravel even faster. Like a thread being pulled loose with no one willing to stop it. "You think you're better than everyone, don't you?" Jimmy snapped, his voice rising, his composure disintegrating before the cameras. "You walk around Hollywood like royalty, like we're all supposed to bow down and worship the great Michael B. Jordan." Michael remained seated, gaze steady. "Jimmy, I've never said I was better than anyone. But I'll tell you this." He leaned forward slightly, calm but resolute. "I'm better than this. I'm better than sitting here while you try to tear me down just to make yourself feel important. I'm better than pretending this spectacle is entertainment when it's frankly just sad." Michael began to stand, but Jimmy wasn't ready to let him leave. In a move that would haunt his career for years to come, he reached out his hand, grabbed Michael's arm. "Sit down. We're not finished." The touch was electric. "Wrong," the audience gasped audibly. Michael looked down at Jimmy's hand, then up at his face with an expression that could stop a clock. His voice dropped, deadly quiet. The entire studio leaned in to hear it. "Jimmy, take your hand off me now." Something in that tone-controlled, cold, commanding cut through Jimmy's fury like ice water to the face. He let go immediately, but the line had been crossed. Everyone knew it. "Did you just put your hands on me?" Michael asked, voice still quiet but sharpened to a point. "Did you seriously try to physically force me to stay in a chair so you could continue humiliating me on national television?" Oh, Jimmy's face turned a ghostly pale. "Michael, I didn't mean to. I was just..." "You were just..." "What, Jimmy?" Michael snapped back, fire returning to his voice. "So desperate to maintain control that you forgot basic human decency. You forgot that I'm a person, not your prop." The silence was now total. Even the camera operators had frozen, transfixed. Michael straightened to his full height, casting a long shadow over the desk. Jimmy, still seated, suddenly looked much smaller. "You know what the saddest part is?" Michael said, staring down at him. "I came here tonight genuinely excited to talk about my work. I had respect for you, for your show. I thought we might have a proper conversation about art, about creativity, about something that bloody matters." Jimmy opened his mouth to interrupt. Michael raised a hand and stopped him cold. "No, Jimmy, you've said enough. It's my turn now." He turned slightly, addressing not just Jimmy, but the entire studio. "You want to know what I think of you?" His voice was unwavering. "I think you're a coward, so terrified of fading into irrelevance that you'd tear down anyone who reminds you of how small your world really is." "Michael, please." Jimmy's voice was barely a whisper now. Can we start over?" Michael's laugh was low and humorless. "Start over," he echoed. "Jimmy, there's no coming back from this. Oh, you showed the world. You really are tonight. And it turns out, "You're just a bully with a microphone." The audience was spellbound. Some were recording with their phones, others simply watching, mouths agape. The tension in the room was almost unbearable, electric and volatile. Michael's voice cut through it like thunder. "I've been in this business for over a decade, worked with the best directors, the most talented actors, the most brilliant. Mine's in cinema, and in all that time, I have never ever encountered someone as staggeringly unprofessional as you're being right now." Jimmy's hands were visibly shaking as he reached for his water. "Michael, maybe we should take a break, cool down." Michael cocked his head. "Cool down," he repeated, incredulous. "Jimmy, I'm as cool as they come. I'm probably the calmest person in this building right now. You're the one losing it. You're the one who's lost control of his own damn show." The truth of those words landed like a punch. Jimmy glanced around, searching for some lifeline. The band, his producers, his writers, none came. They just stared at him, some with pity, some with disgust. Michael turned directly to camera now. "You want to know what's really going on here?" he said, gaze locked with millions at home. This moment right now is what it looks like when truth walks into a room that's spent too long hiding behind applause signs and cheap laughter. Asterisk, the man invited me onto his show under false pretenses, Michael said, voice steady and clear. He told my team we'd be discussing my new film, my creative process, and my upcoming projects. Instead, he chose to ambush me with personal jabs and second-rate gossip. Jimmy opened his mouth to object, but Michael wasn't finished. And when I refused to play along with his little game, when I maintained my dignity and my professionalism, he lost it. He got so angry that he actually put his hands on me to try and force me to take part in my own humiliation. The weight of Michael's words settled over the studio like a lead curtain. Everyone understood now this wasn't just an interview gone awry. They were witnessing a career-ending implosion, and Jimmy was still holding the match. Michael turned to him again. "Jimmy, I want you to look at me," he said, voice soft but unflinching. "Really look. Do you see what you've become? Do you understand that in 5 minutes you've dismantled everything it took you years to build?" Jimmy finally looked up. His eyes were red, watery. For a fleeting moment, he looked like he might apologize, like he might try to salvage something from the wreckage. But instead, he made the worst decision of his career. His face twisted bitter, tight with desperation. He turned back to the audience, forcing a smile that resembled more of a grimace. "You know what, folks?" he said, laughter thin and strained. "I think we're seeing the real Michael B. Jordan tonight. This is what happens when these Hollywood prima donnas don't get their way. They throw their toys out the prom like spoiled children." The collective gasp was immediate and sharp. Even Jimmy's most loyal fans recoiled. Michael didn't move. He stood perfectly still, watching Jimmy dig his own grave, one panicked word at a time. "Prima donna," Mike repeated, his tone laced with disbelief. "Jimmy, you grabbed me. You attacked my career. You ambushed me with lies and I'm the prima donna. Do you hear yourself right now?" But Jimmy had passed the point of no return. Desperate to regain control, he doubled down. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I don't usually bring on guests like this. They come in here thinking they're too good for honest questions, too important to be held accountable. Well, Michael, this is my show. And on my show, nobody is above being called out." The silence that followed was suffocating. Michael slowly looked around the studio. The crew looked stunned. Audience members sat frozen, some shaking their heads in disbelief. The cameras captured every angle of Jimmy's collapse in real time. Michael turned back to him. "Guests like this," he repeated, letting the phrase linger in the air. "Jimmy, what exactly do you mean by that? Because it's beginning to sound like this has nothing to do with my answers," Jimmy paled. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "That's not what I meant," he mumbled at last. "I just meant, difficult guests. Demanding types." "No, Jimmy," Michael said, voice cool and commanding. "That is what you meant. And now, everyone watching knows it." His tone was calm but carried the weight of moral authority. "Do you know what the real tragedy is? You had a chance to be better than this, to show grace, to show professionalism, to show basic human decency. Instead, you chose to show us exactly who you are when the cameras are rolling." Jimmy was sweating now, his shirt collar visibly damp, his hands trembling as he shuffled his cue cards. Panic etched every inch of his face. "Michael, I think you're overreacting," he stammered. "We're just having a conversation." Here, Michael let out a short, cold laugh. "A conversation? Jimmy, conversations require mutual respect. What we have here is a desperate man tearing at someone who threatens him, and that's someone refusing to be torn down." Erupt. The band members shifted uncomfortably. The writers stared at their feet. Producers were whispering frantically into headsets. Everyone in the building knew they were witnessing a moment that would live in television infamy. "You want to know what I really think happened tonight?" Michael's voice carried to every corner of the studio. "You saw me walk in confident, respected, self-assured, and it reminded you of everything you're not, everything you'll never be." "That's absurd," Jimmy blurted, but his voice lacked any conviction. "Is it?" Michael shot back. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks a lot like a man so terrified of becoming irrelevant. He's willing to destroy his own legacy in live television, just to try and drag someone else down with him." Michael turned and began to walk toward the edge of the stage. But Jimmy, voice hoarse, called after him. "You can't just walk out, Michael, we still have." 10 minutes remained in the segment. Michael turned around slowly. His face was a careful blend of pity and contempt. "Watch me." Jimmy's voice cracked with panic. "If you walk off this stage, you'll never work in this town again. I've got friends, connections, I can make sure stop." Michael's voice sliced clean through Jimmy's threat. Cold, precise, just. "Stop. Do you hear yourself? You're threatening me on live television because I won't sit here and let you humiliate me. You're actually trying to destroy my career because I refuse to be complicit in my own degradation." The audience was dead silent. Some covered their mouths, others simply stared, stunned. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every raw second of what would become one of the most infamous moments in late night television history. Michael turned back to Jimmy. "Let me explain something to you. I don't need you. I don't need your show, your platform, your approval, or your manufactured camera-ready friendship. What I need," he said, voice gaining force, "is to work with people who recognize that talent and success aren't threats to be crushed. They're accomplishments to be celebrated." Jimmy began to speak. Michael held up a hand. "I'm not finished. You said I'd never work in this town again." Michael stepped forward, slowly. "Jimmy, this town is built on talent, creativity, integrity, the ability to connect with people authentically. Tonight, you've proven to the entire country that you possess none of those things. If anyone's career is in jeopardy tonight, it's not mine." He stepped even closer, voice dropping just above a whisper. Somehow it struck louder than any shout. "Do you know the difference between us, Jimmy? When people remember this night, when they talk about what happened here, they'll remember a man who carried himself with composure under fire, and a man who crumbled into bitterness, desperation, and cruelty. Which one do you think you are?" Jimmy's mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. No words came out. Michael glanced once at the audience, then back at the host. "You wanted to get personal," he said, eyes hard. Here's something personal. I was raised to treat people with respect, to lift others up, not tear them down. To be a man of principle, whether the cameras are rolling or not. He inhaled slowly. My mother would be ashamed of me if I stayed here another second and pretended that this was acceptable behavior. Michael straightened his jacket. He turned to the main camera. His tone softened, but carried extraordinary weight. To everyone watching at home, to my fans, to anyone who's ever believed in me, thank you. What you witnessed tonight wasn't entertainment. It was a cautionary tale about what happens when insecurity and power collide unchecked. He turned back to Jimmy, who now sat slumped in his chair, a man utterly deflated. Jimmy, I genuinely hope you get the help you need. This isn't who you have to be. You can choose to be better. But you'll have to do it without me. Michael turned toward the steps off stage, then paused. One last time, he looked back, eyes piercing through the silence. You know what's really sad about all of this? I used to watch your show. I used to think you were clever. I used to respect what you did. A beat tonight. You've shown me that the person I thought I was watching never actually existed. And with that, Michael B. Jordan walked off the stage through the stunned audience. Out of the studio, leaving behind a career-defining moment that would be analyzed, dissected, and remembered for years to come. Back at the desk, Jimmy sat. Alone. The studio lights burned down like spotlights in a courtroom. The cameras continued to roll, broadcasting every inch of his humiliation. The audience began to murmur. Then whisper. Then openly discuss what they had just witnessed. The silence on Jimmy's part stretched endlessly, till, at last, he looked up at the camera. His face was hollow, dazed. We'll be right back, he mumbled into the microphone. But everyone knew nothing was coming back. Nothing would ever be the same. The credits didn't roll that night. The show cut to an unscheduled commercial break, one that ran awkwardly until the local news took over. And somewhere in Hollywood, Michael B. Jordan was driving home, his integrity intact, his reputation strengthened, his conscience clear. That was the night one of Hollywood's biggest stars reminded the world what real strength looks like. That was the night a talk show host discovered that there are some lines you don't just cross, you obliterate. That was the night television history was made, one devastating comeback at a time.